Hello, designers. This is Jason Grant. I am the head coach, and the CEO of UX Coach. Welcome to the update about UX Coach and what we're up to. So unlike my usual self, I've created a list this time to keep myself on track. There's a lot to talk through, so I want to just go through it sequentially to speak and represent a bit of design thinking and design angle to the whole thing. It was a very, very interesting event, an interesting discussion, and one of the core takeaways from that was that design thinking is an absolute backbone to creating ethical banking. So at the end, all the panelists got asked to kind of offer their final thought on ethical banking, and I said we created capitalism with business thinking and it's unsustainable. We created technosphere with systems thinking and that's too much technology. With design thinking, we'll create an ethical and just society that is sustainable, holistic, and works for everyone. And still stand by that. So it's an interesting one-liner to keep in mind. So that's the update on the Lloyds. After the panel discussion, I was approached by a whole bunch of people who were very interested in the whole notion of design thinking and coaching people design thinking. And off the back of that, something pretty cool has been generated as an idea, which I'll update later on in terms of partnerships. So that's the first point. Next thing, with UX Coach website, we have decided to use this as a backbone for our content. The important aspect here is to say that we create a lot of content and we're quite generating and generous with the way we come up with content, and so far we've been a little bit guilty of not using the website as the backbone for that content, both this is like a central hub and a way to share it. So what we will be doing going forward is to publish a lot more stuff on our website and have it more as a kind of destination where you can check up a whole bunch of stuff, including these kind of updates and much more. So keep an eye on that. Style guide for our brand has also been developed further to include some of the aspects about how we want to treat the brand. And what we're saying is that our brand is a continuous artwork that expresses itself through different channels in different formats. So right now, what I'm doing with this update is a form of an artistic expression to update you on what we're doing, but also keeping myself accountable and active with progress and sort of putting some of that stuff that's in my head on the paper and reflecting it back to everyone who's interested. The next point is that we've started a meetup group. Now, I was a little bit, to be honest, I have to be honest and real with you, I was a little bit sort of wary and skeptical and maybe a little bit negative around whether there is any point in this and whether it would work and so on. In practice, what's happened is that within a few days we've got over 110 people that have joined the group, the meetup group, and we'll be linking to that from our website as well. If you look up on meetup.com, if you look up London Design Thinking Academy, that's the name of our meetup. We just set up the meetup group. We are working through logistics of what the best thing to do with regards to the first event would be, whether to have something big or something small, something practical, something more discussion. There's lots of ideas. So, but it's a great news. This is a little bit personal one, but very important to me. Is that in the last month and a half or so, I've actually been coached by three other people, and I'm not going to make any sort of specific remarks on this update as to who those people were or are. But let's just say my personal life and outlook on life has been majorly transformed, and I feel like I've stepped up a few notches in my own personal consciousness and realization of how I think, and sort of dealing with my inner critic and realizing that I was very critical of the way I think about myself and everything that I do, like 100 times more than I thought I was. And so there's absolutely no reason to be like that, and there's every reason to go out and do the right stuff and do creative stuff, which is what we're doing here at UX Coach. So I'll share a lot more about that more specifically, because it's a very sort of important and detailed topic that I want to go much more into separately. But coaching works, and even us coaches get coached, and we have amazing results. Some of them are so ridiculously obvious, but only after you speak to somebody else. So it's a very important aspect of coaching in general. And so coaches get coached too. And so one of the things that's come off the back of Lloyd's panel discussion afterwards was we effectively entered a partnership talk with a company that I won't disclose the name of because it's still in sort of in discussions and so on. But the notion of partnership talks was kicked off there, and since then we've actually entered into partnership talks with about 5 different companies that are in some sort of complementary potential relationships with what UX Coach is looking to do. So that's great news, and we'll look to realize those partnerships as soon as possible and as big as possible. We are looking for locations for our meetup. So we've set up the meetup group. There is a sort of concept behind it in terms of what kind of meetups we want to run and how we want to organize the sort of the content and themes behind it. So we have that pretty clear. What we don't have still worked out is where we should meet up. There's a lot of ideas and sort of candidate places, including public spaces like parks and museums and such like, which would be fun and interesting and relevant to some design thinking meetups, events. But we also want to have an access to pretty nice facility where we can hold design thinking meetups and maybe do them a little bit more hands-on with some practical exercises and so on. So if you can help us with linking us with an event venue, that would be amazing. We're already in talks with a bunch of venues, but what we want to do is we want to have strong connections with a range of venues to be able to hold our meetups potentially at different places for variety's sake and for inspiration's sake, and just to keep things fresh as much as possible, because again that's kind of what we're really all about. So another thing that we have kicked off talks about is professional accreditation and the process around professional accreditation, so that we can register our materials and courses and methods really as accredited works. And so why is that important is because once we go into corporate environments, people will theoretically be much more interested to get an accredited training than non-accredited training. This process is somewhat new to me. I've never done this before. So if anyone can offer any insights, tips, advice, and wisdom on who to go with for accreditation. At the moment, I'm just in conversations with one company. I'm aware that there's a number of them, so I'd love to hear more about that. Next week, we're going to kick off conversations about to get understanding on how we can get some government funding for what we do, because we want to deliver design thinking, coaching, and training for the process, for the program. I've personally done this before, some sort of 15 years ago, where we helped set up business and careers advice training center and program for the biggest housing association in London, and we trained and set up into businesses people who spent decade or more in prison and have never worked, for example, or people who've suffered from alcoholism or drug addiction and have stopped doing that, but then wanted to get back into work or set up their businesses. And we had amazing success then, in some sense. So we'll kick off those discussions next week, and I'm fortunate enough to have good contacts in that area who can advise me on how best to go around that. Another thing that's big and important is that Mass Challenge, the accelerator where I've become a mentor, has accepted this year's startups that they will incubate, and the mentoring process will kick off pretty soon. So I'm looking forward to that, both in terms of learning myself what startups are, specific lots of questions around how they should best go about building their products and services and designing their companies and so on. So that's great news that we'll be able to help a lot there. And we'll inevitably learn a lot out of that, and it will be great networking for us as well to understand what's going on much more. Our YouTube channel has finally got one live video, and it's a 5-minute taste from my guest lecture at Bournemouth University, which I had loads of fun delivering. And we will be posting a lot more to that channel, lots of different types of content around discussions about design thinking and design in general. Also, maybe some of these Facebook videos will be posted up there and so on. We still need to work out exactly what the best way of using that channel should be. One of the issues that we had hit previously was around, on going back to the website, but slightly different angle to that, is that we had Instagram hooked up to our website. So as soon as we posted an Instagram story, it would publish on our website because the API was linked up. Now, Instagram, and I've sort of complained about this on Twitter, on my personal Twitter, and I'll sort of make a remark about this here as well, because I think it's related to design thinking. Instagram had changed their API and the way it's architected, really. They changed the API, but all the libraries of code that work with previous version of the API have essentially been broken. It was, to me, that was really paradoxical situation, because a few weeks prior to that, I was teaching at Bournemouth University about user-centered web development, backwards compatibility, but Instagram just went off and just did that anyway. So they broke a whole bunch of apps that were developed with Instagram APIs. The reason why am I telling you all this is because our website was hooked up with Instagram. We'd had this sort of strategy and approach to publish nice Instagram stories with nice pictures and nice descriptions of design thinking behind it, but that had broken, so we had to take off that whole aspect from our website and my personal website as well, which is like double whammy. But now we found another way to pull in some of those Instagram stories, and what we'll do is we'll hook it up so that it publishes as a page site as a bit of a double up, really, but it just prevents us from future tie up with specifically with Instagram API in this way, and dare I say it will be nicer to read on our site anyway. But we want to get this Instagram and website thing right. The other thing I've spent quite a bit of time doing is experimenting with Snapchat and how to use that. And obviously, going back, also Instagram has released similar sort of features. So we will probably experiment with posting up some design thinking wisdom to Snapchat stories, like I've been doing with to Instagram moments, like I've been doing with. The other thing I've been doing is I've been coaching people one-to-one over Skype, mostly in like UX design, which is went so far that's gone amazingly well. And one of the big learning lessons out of that has been that people find it motivational to have a senior UX person who's been around the block like myself, so to tell them that they can do stuff and to quickly point them to right resources and a way of thinking, and unblock any sort of blockages that they have in their mind, a self-doubt, and sort of answer any questions that they have quickly. And so I believe this is an extremely effective way to help UX designers become UX designers, and those kind of junior or mid-level UX designers become better at that. I've done a lot of mentoring through UXPA before, so I've seen transformation that people have reflected in themselves through this process. But doing it over Skype, I was a little bit again, maybe skeptical, but that's why we run as an experiment a bit, and it's worked really well. So we can do more of that. So if anyone's looking to get coached, and our product offering from completely free and unlimited to enjoy offering down to require from us. So I've listed that down. We'll create web pages again for that to describe and explain it, and then follow up with video outlines and so on. So we're taking this approach of working with the highest fidelity deliverable at any time that we have available. Right now, this deliverable is just a list on my notebook, and I'm going to be creating that into web pages and then building more fidelity around that. So it's just going to help us outline what the product offering of UX Coach is, even in the long-term strategic vision. Reason why that's important is because we can set up on web pages kind of calls to action, let's say express interest in this thing, or sign up right now, or subscribe, and so on. So that's just huge, and that's a very good question. And I could say to people, well, do this, do that, and just kind of randomly answer it, but I don't like to work in that way. I don't think that's a very well designed way to work. So what I've outlined and written down again is in my notebook, and it's going to be going up on a web page very soon, is the ways in which people can get involved from the lowest level, which is like a reader or a viewer of content, down up to follower, and then all the way up to section that and reach out to us about any sort of level of involvement that you want to participate in. Through the partnership talks, I've been asked to send people some presentation decks around what UX Coach is, what design thinking is, what we've done before, how we think, what we can help with, who our team is, all that kind of stuff. So I've been putting together that presentation deck, and it's almost finished. I need to probably send it off to a couple of people and then get some feedback. Again, this will be going on the website as a formal reference point, and we'll be building some pages around this to tell that story. The other very, very important and very dear thing to me to to have done is that I've taken the people that I was coached by, I've also coached them. So it's been a bit of an exchange of services and an exchange of insights, let's say. And I coach them from my own perspective and our perspective on design thinking, and actually customizing what I say to them based on their circumstances and what I believe they would have needed to go to next. Okay, and it's not worked well, it's worked exceptionally well. I was again a little bit skeptical about this. I'm a bit of a skeptic, I suppose, until I'm proven right. I suppose like most designers are like this, I'll sort of believe it when I see it. So I've coached 3 separate individuals who are coaches themselves or consultants themselves, and they've all had like major epiphanies from the conversations that we've had, which I'm incredibly excited and happy about. And it's a proof and validation that what we're doing makes sense. In fact, in conversations with other people that we've had, that I've had, people have come to like major realizations about what they're doing wrong, what they should be doing more of to actually make their businesses and lives better, which is what we're really all about. So I'm incredibly excited about that. It makes me happy, makes me want to do this like 24/7, which is that's my life mission. So the other thing that's happening is I'm lined up to talk at 2 conferences. One is about UX in health. One is Design Festival, more service design, where I'll talk about bringing design thinking into corporations and introducing it into corporations. And I'm also due to help in a workshop at another conference. So 3 conferences lined up. I'm also looking to speak at any other conferences that you think are relevant. So please reach out on that front as well. Soon we'll be setting up our meetup event. It all depends on what the best concept comes out to be to introduce it. Maybe we'll just meet up in the park and have a conversation with everyone who turns up and say, what would you most like to hear about, and do it like as ideas there. I'd love to hear back from you as well on what you think is the best way to kind of run a nice design thinking meetup over and over again. Again, we've been very active in the community. We went out to a lot of events that had to do with business, entrepreneurship, design thinking, participated in design thinking workshops to promote UX Coach, but also to see what people are having problems with, what sort of solutions they're looking at, how they're solving their business and life problems, and so on. Very, very important thing for us to continue doing this continuous and never-ending research into what people need the most, so that we can be most relevant to as many people as possible. And the other thing that was a little bit again of an experiment, but so far it's been the fun one. I've a page called Consciousness Hub. And like that, and get some consciousness updates and conscious updates there. But we will be using my gardening, maybe some yoga and meditation kind of activities and so on. So that's an interesting reframing sort of exercise there to give a name to a garden, and then think of it as more of rather than just a garden, but more of an events hub. So it'll be interesting to see how that develops as well. And yeah, so the other thing that's in the pipeline, and I can't share any of these details as yet, because we'll have to leave something for another update. But there's a lot more exciting stuff in the pipeline, which will become apparent in due course, and for replay viewers, and please feel free to share this to other people who are interested in design thinking. and maybe want to join UX Coach in one way, shape, or form, which will be updating on how you can get involved. Thanks very much for listening, and stay positive, stay creative. Bye bye.